Hello everybody. So today this is a little bit normal, or a little bit non-normal than what I usually do for a review. Instead of it being like a, demonical fit, SH Figure Arts, that's none of this. This is a Blokees model kit, which is my, shall we say, first ever encounter, well not encounter, but my first ever entry to the Blokees, however you say it. But this is the first thing I ever have of the Blokees, like blocky stuff. I'm gonna assume it's Blokees, so I'm gonna go ahead and move everything out the way so that I can show you the box, because this box is astoundingly huge. I mean, if you've been around my channel enough to know of this backdrop, you know this backdrop is pretty large. And I mean, this box, it's bigger than my hand. I could probably fit both of, like, probably about a hand and a half on this box just alone, about how big this is. So, I mean, you get this picture of Naruto, and I've always been told that I say his name wrong. I've been told, because I say it is Kurama, which I'm pretty sure that's wrong. I don't know. But you get this picture here. I can't get the full thing just because of how big the box is. You get this one. And if you're wondering what that shaking around is, it's just the parts and stuff that I have in there. Then you've got, it shows literally everything that it came with. Mind you, I don't build a lot of model kits. So this took me like 3 hours to build. Which, yeah, these would be nice to do, or these pictures right up here would be nice to do. But I'll get into that when we get to the articulation segment. Then you get this, the seal, I believe that's the seal for him. But you get this, like, side profile, which of him just kind of crouched over standing. Then you have this side too. This shows you, like, the technology that's behind it and whatnot. And, like, this says 360, but I don't think we came here to look at the box of this this here model kit. So before I even go over the model kit, I want to go over this. Now, you get this pretty deep, like, nice, for a model kit, you get this nice detail, or not really detail, but more or less this, it's a nice plastic ball, which I know what it is. It's the tailed beast bomb. If I'm incorrect, let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's the tailed beast bomb. And then, one thing I like about this, it's a ratcheted style freaking stand, and this thing right here, it's a rubbery clip, which is just beautiful. Stand overall, really cool. Just again, we'll get into that when we get more into the figure, but it works for what it needs to do. Then, again, I'm going to go over the accessories, and I'm going to consider him, this little Naruto here, I'm going to consider an accessory, because he's small enough to be, to me, considered an accessory. Now, you're not going to get the ever so much of articulation out of this, microscopic little, like, thing here. Now, I don't know what this is for back here. This big freaking cup plunger thing in the back, on Naruto's back. I'm assuming it's to plug him into the stand somewhere, but that looks just so odd. Like, why would I don't know. But anyway, articulation-wise, he's got single bended, why am I blanking here? Bicep joints. He's got single bends here. He can move his arm up about that high. And he's got a full 360 in both arms. And you don't really get too much of a bicep swivel, which is honestly to be expected. I mean, he's pretty super small. And then he gets about that much of an ab crunch. I mean, for being as small of a figure as he... Well, okay, I'll admit it. I'll consider him a figure. But for being as small as he is, he gets quite the range in certain places. Then you got... Can kick about that much forward, and he can bend his knee about that much. Then you just get, like, basically... His feet are basically on ball joints. But for taking photos and stuff to make Kurama look pretty big, this Naruto definitely catches that. If you put him in front of it, it definitely will capture that. It'll make it look like what it's intended for. That, and if you really like the, smaller scaled figures, you'll like him. Now, you'll get something like this. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you are probably wondering, what the hell is this for? Let's pull him over here. And we are still in the cam, but it's pretty far out there. Okay, I've got it the wrong way. There we go. So if you look up at his eyes here, his eyes do glow. And when you open the mouth does glow. I think it lasts for quite a while. Because, I mean, I can leave him here, and it says it's supposed to last for 3 seconds, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. This ain't no 3 seconds. This is more like probably 3 minutes, or a minute. Because it will go off by itself. I'm trying to show that off here in a minute before we go over the figure and accessories. Yep, see, it just went off. Probably, I don't know if you guys could have seen that, but it goes off after a while. Now, you don't get much with Kurama here, but I think it's the essentials of what you need. You get these, like, bent up fingers, and then you get these, like, really straight-handed palms. And then you get, like, the relaxed hands that I have on him right now. Now, on to the actual reason you would buy this. So, for starters, this man is large. Or I should say, this fox. This fox is large. He is definitely not going to fit in your SHF stuff. You could still use him with your SHF stuff, just... it's going to be rather hard. I suggest if you try to do something for far away shots, use this Naruto. And then if you're doing close up shots, use the SHF one, which, I mean, I guess you could say he pairs well. He will have a nice shelf presence. So in terms of articulation, you get quite the amazing amount of articulation on this man. Well, again, on this fox, because pushing him back, you get... Now, I'm going to make this a little easier and just pull him off from the midsection. With the arms, you get about that much. And again, this is a model kit, so he gets quite well range. I will say one thing he is suffering here is he has a very crappy butterfly joint. But for the most part, he has what I would imagine a bigger scale or even an SH figure art style would give him. You get about that much in the elbow there, or the bicep there. I almost keep calling them elbows, which I mean they are, but then you get... Now, this is on a sunken ball joint, so on a sunken straight peg ball joint, so you aren't gonna get, you know, a hell of a lot of articulation out of that. And then moving the arms down to the side, in the head section here, you can make him look up about that far. His mouth does open, and when you do open his mouth, the tongue kind of just sits there. Yeah, you get no articulation in the tongue, but you are able to move the jaw, which I mean, I guarantee you, it's a way to get around instead of including two heads, which I honestly don't mind. I always like when figures have like animalistic kind of characters like this have like. I always like when they have moving jaws. But for the most part, this is your entire upper midsection here. He does connect to the body on a like small thing here, small like a post. However, before we move to the lower midsection, I am going to discuss something here that this suffers horribly from, which is this damn midsection joint. This is so bad because when you try to move him around, this upper section just pops off constantly. Like, it makes... I want to fiddle with this a lot, but the problem is the midsection. You plug it on like that, and then you can move it down like this, but when you're trying to pose, it just pops right off like that. So I'm assuming if you have something that is the same size as this, but longer, I would definitely try to use a longer peg. I am not going to try to rip him apart, though, just to put a new peg in. But moving on to his lower section now. That is just one gripe I have about this one, though. There are a couple gripes I have about this, as you will find out in the video here. But, another gripe of mine is, which I understand, it's a lot of tails. It's 9 freaking tails. He is so heavy in the back here. You are not going to get him to stand up on his own. Now, if you don't have the tails on him, you can stand him up. However, what is Kurama without his 9 tails? But, you are not going to stand him up. These are all way too heavy for him to stand up on his own, which is kind of annoying. But then let's do this a little bit easier, because both legs have the same kind of articulation style. You got I call it the 3.0 style, because I'm used to seeing it on the SH Figure Art stuff, is you got the little ball up here, and then you have this lever that goes up and down, basically, so you can stand him up and down. Then fully extended up, that's another thing too, which I understand why it does this. It's a straight peg ball joint. And you get about, pops right off. But, you get about that much. Side, you get about that much. Like, there's just not a lot you get in the foot, which is understandable. It's a model kit. Not too, butthurt about that. But, you do get a bend here, kind of like in the middle of the leg, like at the thigh. Well, not even at the thigh, but more like the ankle. You get like an ankle articulation that bends right here. It's really if you're trying to get him to just be squatted. If you're trying to get him to squat, he does squats beautifully. Then you do get a really nice double jointed knee. I would consider this a double jointed knee. If you think it's a little bit different than a double jointed knee, be my guest. But for the most part, I think that is a double jointed knee, which you can get it to do a damn chicken leg bend. But standing up fully, he is about... The leg is about to his middle section, which is not bad at all. But another thing I want to touch bases on this too is when you are trying to pose him, trying to move the legs around is literally theoretically impossible. It just won't work. When you're trying to move those legs around, the tails are way too heavy to even keep these on. See? He will not... And that's another thing that'll happen too. Overall, I think he's really nice in terms of, if you were to put him on your shelf aesthetic, and if you were to pose him around, put him on your shelf, you're going to enjoy looking at him. Now, I know that these Blokees are very widely popular, But for this being my first introduction to this, which this is probably going to be the only ever first and last one I ever get, because I don't think they do any other, anime stuff, because I know they do Transformers and Marvel stuff, but I am not into Marvel, and I'm not the biggest Transformers fan. But the point I'm trying to make here is, if I had to rate him, I'd give him a rating of, like, probably a 5 or a 6. It's not, oh my gosh, this is the best kurama in the world. No. This is a decent thing. I think he's gonna, like I said, have a nice shelf presence. Then, real quick, last thing I will go over. If this bothers you, there are hella seam lines on here, which doesn't bother me, because you're not going to be looking for that. But the tails, they do move, and they do spin. But I look at it this way. It's going to be, and that'll happen too, it's going to be rather hard to move the tails, especially when you can't even stand him without the tails weighing him down. But for the most part, I do like this. I think he's fun when he wants to pose around. He's fun to pose around. But for the most part, he is a really challenging fig to pose around. And I get it. He is a model kit. He is intended to pose, put into a pose, put on your shelf, and go, okay, that's how I want him to sit on my shelf, and that's how he's going to sit. Now, I am not going to put him in this, like, neutral standing pose. I am going to put him in something else. But I will say, you are going to need a pretty deep shelf. This man is big. Like, I'll pause the review here in a minute, and I'll show you how I'm going to have to do something to fit him on one of my shelves. Alright, so here's what I was talking about. So, I usually set my figures on a piece of wood like this. This is like a blue pine piece of wood. And, I usually keep them in the boxes, I think that's aesthetically, like, it looks nicer here. Like this on the shelves. However, Kurama here, gonna put him in that pose. I think that looks the best there. But, if you want to put him on the stand here, which I strongly suggest putting him on the stand here, is he kind of takes up a lot more than I intended him to. Now, I could just turn him, but, I mean, same thing happens. He just genuinely is that much of a big boy. And, it's because of the tails. The tails are definitely what's going to, throw him off any kind of small shelf, which I'm just going to have to figure out how to extend it a little bit, or do something. But that is something I did want to warn people about. Now, I get it, this isn't really part of the review, I just wanted to show you, putting him on a shelf is going to be kind of hard if you have small shelves like I do. But, for the most part, this figure is dope. For real, for being a model kit, really cool. Like, I'm not like I said, I'm not the biggest Transformers fan, but out of the Blokees stuff, I might even try a Transformers one, which is rather interesting. But, if you're a big fan of this character, you'll definitely like him. So, see y'all in the next.